Okay, calling the meeting to order. This meeting of the Reading Municipal Light Department of Commissioners is being videotaped at RMLD's office at 230 Ash Street, Reading, Mass. For distribution to the community television stations in Reading, North Reading, Wilmington, and Linfield. The RMLD Board of Commissioners recognizes the importance of hearing public comment at the discretion of the chair on items on the official agenda as well as items not on the official agenda. We ask that all questions or comments from the public be directed to the chair and that all parties, including members of the RMLD board, act in a professional and courteous manner when addressing the board or responding to comments. Once recognized by the chair, all persons addressing the board shall state their name and address prior to speaking. It's the role of the chair to maintain order in all public comment or ensuing discussion. All right, introductions. We have Citizen Advisory Board Chair Dennis Kelly. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Phil, will you be secretary this evening? Thank you. And it doesn't look like we have any of our select board liaisons or the financial committee. This doesn't here. All right. Well, we have two. I think we have news that we have. It hasn't been officially done, but we have no challengers to Phil and Dave, right? So I don't know if I can say that. It looks like you guys are going to be re-elected coming back, so that's good.
Should.
Excellent.
Yeah, it should happen.
Yeah.
Assuming they get at least one vote.
Don't forget to vote for yourself.
Right, exactly.
I need to vote for myself.
You do have to get at least one vote, even though you're the only two on the ballot. So good luck. Good luck with the
We
election.
want any write-ins.
And Dennis, any comment from you?
No, happy to be here, and we can give you a little update on the Citizen Advisory if you want.
Yeah, why don't you do? We were both there. I think we're probably going to cover most of it, but if you want to just give a top line.
Yeah, we basically, Colleen shared and Hamid shared information about the past couple months and service areas with all the storms we've had and the minimal outages based on those windstorms and different things we had, and it goes to show a lot of what they're doing is working and starting to improve because we didn't have the outages, so that was good. We also made a motion on a purchase power agreement, and the CAB, I think you guys will be looking at that tonight as well.
Yep.
So the CAB passed that, and other than that, I think it's about.
Yeah, the only other thing at the end of the meeting, Dennis, we heard talking about electric bus possibility and the 4 towns and charging stations to support that. So if we can use the government vehicles and the school vehicles and make them electric at some point. And they're just talking about the timing. Chuck was talking about, and Colleen, about the timing of purchases to be talking in communication with the towns. Good. No public comment, it looks like, tonight. Thank you, Dennis. And why don't we get some approval of the minutes?
Right.
If we have, Phil, you want to
I'll
read
move
these?
that the board approve the meeting minutes of December 20th, 2018, and January 24th, 2019, on the recommendation of the general manager.
A second?
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0-0. Okay, now we have the RMLD board member in attendance. Oh, we already did that. We covered number 6. All right. And the general manager's report. Colleen?
Okay, thanks. I'm actually going to, Chuck did such a great job at the CAB meeting. I think I'll let him talk about, this was his first year. He came with me down to the legislative rally. Thank you again for letting me go, speak on behalf of the little guy, us. I think Chuck enjoyed himself, so we'll let him get some face time here.
All right, Chuck.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm not sure whether it was the highlight of the trip or not, but I got to sit next to Joe Kennedy and then come back and tell the rest of the staff here that I got to sit next to Joe Kennedy.
It's Joe, right? The third Joe.
Right, yeah.
No, we had the opportunity to go down and meet with our representatives and senators from Massachusetts and to convey to them issues of concern back home. One of the first things that we shared with them was that the voters in their districts were owners of our system, and as owners wanted to be sure that the value of their interests was protected. And then we began to share with them what some of the issues were. The issue that I was most responsible for when I was in these sessions was talking about the wholesale market, because that is my current area of expertise. And what we wanted to convey to them was ISO New England runs a very complex market. We can deal with that. What we can't deal with easily is that it is a very volatile market, that prices fluctuate from year to year, and that every time there is a capacity auction for the last 13 years, it has been a different set of rules. Now, ISO is taking the position that that's necessary because people are figuring out how to game the system. But I look out and I see that we have a New York Stock Exchange, which seems to function fairly well in exchanging shares of stock. We have the Chicago Mercantile, which seems to function fairly well in the exchange of commodity. And the last I knew, electricity was a commodity. So I'm not sure why between a stock and a commodities market they can't figure out something that would work. But that volatility in pricing and the instability of the process makes it very difficult for capital-intensive businesses to plan their future. What do we invest in? One example of that, the capacity market about 10 years ago was $2.50 a kW month. This last month, the auction settled for 2023 at $3.80 a kW month. But in between, around 2009, 2010, it was up over $10 a kW month. That is a 500% swing over a 10-year period. And the reason for that is that ISO isn't able to manage the planning process anymore because of their market structure. They instead put it out to bid, and whatever the bid comes in is what they pay. Their job isn't to maintain a stable cost structure. It is to make sure that there is electricity available and it's silently added at any cost. So it's a very difficult market to do business in, and because ISO is regulated by FERC, we shared that with our representative bodies while we were there.
Chuck, what's your ask of them? What are you asking them to do?
To go back to FERC and have FERC review the market structure and come up with a better approach that is transparent and takes the volatility out. It used to work that way,
Right.
back when it was NEPOOL.
We want to get that message to them through the formation of a blue ribbon committee. So what everyone asked for, each of the representatives or the delegation, was, can we form a blue ribbon committee that can then go put the pressure on them? Because there isn't one entity in particular that's responsible for controlling ISO, and FERC is appointed by the president. So it's really a complex concept of what we're dealing with capacity in the markets, and then it's complex in who's responsible for it, because it seems like no one is. So this blue ribbon committee that we asked for would help to at least to have a set of people that understand exactly what it means. And we had a panel there with these experts in the field. You'd probably know some of them from NEPA, but they took us from the late 80s all the way to present of how the capacity market got to where it is. And it was extremely interesting. And I've asked NEPA if maybe they would get those same people to do that at the NEPA conference, because
Yeah,
I
I'd love
think
to see that,
a lot
yeah.
of the managers and a lot of the commissioners would really
That's good.
be able to understand it better. If you heard the whole thing from beginning to end, you'd probably see what the problems are. But to get everyone there's a stakeholder to make the changes with the government together to hear that is what we're trying to get. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Now, the Blue Ribbon Commission was sort of the flagship idea that we presented, but we did cover 3 or 4 other topics. We had a very limited time. We had less than 30 minutes with each representative or representative's staffer. So to put complex issues on the table, you can't put a lot out there. But we did cover 3 or 4 other issues while we were there. We talked about allowing 5G onto the pole systems, and the FCC has given a 90-day window for review and approval of these. I pointed out that it's going to be very difficult for some communities to address that issue, since their bucket trucks go to 40 feet, and if we have to put 55-foot poles up there to do it, all of that infrastructure is going to have to be replaced in order to service things. So it's not as easy as they would like it to be. Colleen, did you want to cover the rest?
No, we just said that, this ruling that they made, and we have to quickly address them. They're not talking about logistics or safety. We don't even know who would be installing them, who would be touching them, whether or not these antennas would be disconnected. They are live. Who's going to be authorized to go into the electric space. I mean, there's a lot of things that have not been addressed before they make the rule, which is kind of backwards. So we're just saying there's a lot of things to consider here. So we asked the legislators to, again, you're talking about the FCC. So who exactly is in charge of the SEC to make them understand that, we need to address the logistics of this before we can just start having time clocks.
Colleen, so we've talked in the past about the problems with dual pole ownership, right?
Yeah.
And so would that also, in addition just to covering 5G, would that also be swept in terms of, consideration for either
Well, there could
legislation
be
or
some-
change? Because that's going to
yeah.
still be a problem, right? That
You're
this-
talking about if like AT&T or someone wants to put up their own pole and get permission from the town so they can put an antenna up?
Well, I'm thinking more, we've talked about some of the problems with security of power, because they, not to blame Verizon, but let's say they don't take care of their responsibility because they own the pole or something we want to do is preventative. We almost have to just go fix it in the name of safety, right?
Right.
As opposed to, there's no
Right.
regulations that say, in this case, either party is, obligated to or can interfere.
I'm not sure I understand the
Well,
question.
I'm just saying, this whole 5G issue brings up that whole complexity of when you have dual ownership, right? I mean, there's, who's responsible at the end of
Yeah.
the day?
The owners will still be Verizon and RMLD. It's just who's going to be allowed at the top of the pole, and how are they going to be installed? How are they going to be powered? How are they going to be maintained? What happens if the pole gets hit? I mean, right now we're waiting for the ball in court for everyone's attachments. This is a lot more complicated. I don't know if you've seen a pole with 5 or 6 antennas at the top. It's very complicated on top of the aesthetics of poles already.
Yep.
So, there are some communities that have some. Down the road with autonomous cars, are we looking at, 5 or 6 carriers at the top of every pole? It's not clear. We don't really have a program or understand it very well before the rules start coming out. That's really
I guess
what
what I'm saying
was.
is there's already probably a lack of rules to begin with, right? So you'd like to think somehow that gets addressed
Yeah.
before you start adding more complications.
That's in the 1946 indenture for the joint agreement. I was just reading that today.
I have a couple, just a
Lots
couple.
of whereases.
Go ahead, Dave. So, have we gotten any inquiries from the carriers looking to be on our poles yet? No? Okay. So we can establish application forms, standards, technical and aesthetic standards, and we can impose them. Yes, you. It's within the utility's right to do that. So we don't have to do this now, but I can certainly, it's something I've learned a lot about in recent months, put it that way. So I can
So
help.
you're familiar with the stop
Yeah,
clock?
actually, yeah, I mean, that, but also what you're able to do, and actually you have more say than you might appear by just reading this FCC order, which was not written with the kinds of complexities that you're discussing in mind. So the utility does have a lot that you can do. So talk off.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
good.
does that lead to what we can charge as well?
You can charge, you can charge an application fee. You can recover your costs. You can set standards on what can go up and who does the work. And there has to be shut-off switches, and that you can shut it off. That they have to have clear labels on there. That you can say no to certain poles if it has primary on it, or if it's got stuff on there, you can say no. You can't be on those poles. They can't just go show up and start climbing up poles.
I don't think that the attachment fee is, it's now bound, just like a Comcast attachment. It's not,
They've set some minimum,
you can't,
what they call safe harbor, like what you can charge certain rates, but if you can justify that your costs for processing and dealing and maintaining this are higher than these FCC numbers, you can set higher numbers also. So there's a bunch of things.
Okay.
I think you should give us a training session.
Well, I mean,
he
there's,
just did.
there's not much. Oddly
that's
enough,
very
it's something I've gotten to know fairly well. So we could talk offline about that.
Yeah, great.
That's
Yeah.
good news.
I
We
would
have
like
an
to see,
expert on the commissioner board.
I would like to see the history of the electrical thing, and
Yeah, me too.
I have this sense that there's probably some consolidation in the industry by private equity firms taking over certain parts of it that have tried to skyrocket the rates and game the system everywhere, because that's what they do. That's what they do for a living. So I'd be very interested in seeing that.
One of the things Chuck talked about earlier at the CAB meeting was, this capacity volatility, if we're dealing with our commercial customers on a shred the peak shared benefit, well, if one year it's way up high and then the next year it's not, I mean, they can't count on that shared benefit either. So it affects our customers wanting to be part of that program. Because if they're not going to make a good benefit, they're not going to, push a shift off, say, or something like that. So
Excellent. All right. Any other questions, comments?
just a tax exempt bond, that was the third point that we talked about, that we want to keep tax exempt bonds, so.
Did they have any comments about PG&E and the disaster that it is, and they're reorganizing California's utility industry, right?
No, that wasn't discussed. We try not to discuss disasters.
Well, I'm thinking we
they're
should
far
take them
away.
over.
There may be like 10 or 15 things that we want to discuss with them, but we try to hone it in on them like
Of course,
three major points, because as
Right.
Chuck says, we run in, we have to talk about something very complex, and then we're out of there. So we want them to have a takeaway that they remember.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
And Chuck, you were actually one of the speakers for our group.
Yes, everybody is there, and nobody has a designated spiel that they go through. But yes, I participated in offering up points.
Yeah, good. You have more stuff for us, Chuck, don't you?
Later I do, yes.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I just have,
Yeah, Colleen says one thing and then it's you.
And then it's me again.
You want to go back and forth, or do you?
I like swimming in the fish barrel.
I just wanted to give an update that, with meeting with each of the town managers, administrators, and the selectmen, that in the past, I already talked about Reading in Wilmington. And so this past Monday, I met with Linfield. So I was able to meet the new town manager, and then that night, we met with the selectmen. I did the basic presentation that we did at the Reading town meeting. They had some additional conversations on us helping them with some solar projects if possible, so Chuck's gonna help them with that. We had some requests on commercial auditing for their water system that's in Linfield. And then the other one was, Chuck came with me.
Why would we be involved in a water
Water, yeah.
issue?
Efficiencies of pumps and stuff, we would do commercial auditing as
Oh,
them
like
as
the
a commercial
electricity
company. Yeah,
efficiency. Okay, good.
correct. So solar and what was the third one? Oh, the
Green
green,
pricing.
green communities.
Green communities.
So green communities is like the Mass Collaborative, where in our bill, we collect a charge to pay for the rebates and everything. And green communities is something that like Grid and Eversource has, so they have millions of customers, so they have a lot more money to pay rebates. And so the town manager there is coming from another town that had green communities, so he wants us to be part of it, but we can't really be part of it because we don't pay into it. But we are going to look into it a little bit more. The director of green communities lives in Linfield, so we're going to talk about some kind of a partnership, a segue to our rebates, to their rebates, and see if we can do something within the boundaries of the law and Chapter 164. So it was a great meeting. They extended compliments to Reading and the workers, and said we do a nice and neat job. So
Yep.
Did-
And
did
Vivek
he-
echoed that in the CAB meeting just an hour ago.
Did he mention the rate differential between our rates to part of Linfield and the other part of Linfield? That's,
Well, it's Peabody is the other part, right?
It's not bad.
Peabody's
not
about the
bad?
same.
no, it's not bad.
is it about the same?
But it's the Peabody Municipal
It
Light
is a
Plant
little less because they have
generation.
couple of 50-megawatt generators.
Ah, okay.
So,
I asked the same question.
Yeah.
We're on the same wavelength.
We
I was
are.
thinking the same thing.
yeah. So then the other issue, yep.
I don't know if the other folks here have had the same experience. There's a lot of communications coming out now on solar, from companies, marketing,
Yep.
and I just wonder if there's an opportunity at some point, or if there may be confusion in the consumer level around, gee, I have power, but, should I be getting solar, because everyone's mailing me all kinds of things. And
Right.
So I don't know if it's a marketing opportunity to
Well,
let people know.
Yeah.
I know we already do that, at different.
We actually just ran some community events with the chamber and info sessionals that, remember we had talked about running them for brand new folks that are buying new homes for the
Yeah,
first time.
yeah.
We've been running those in the libraries and different
Yeah,
things,
yeah, I
and
know
we
that, yeah.
talk about the whole solar programs and tell them what they need to do if they want to go solar, what the benefits they might be able to save. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I think also, but just residents in general, because, these companies are mass mailing things
Right.
to.
We're on a little bit of a hole with our next community solar, just because the recs offset the financial economics a little bit, but I think Chuck's working on that, and we'll put out another press release on where we land with that. Okay? The next one, I'm going back to Reading. I'm actually meeting with the town manager on March 25th, which is Monday. I was on the agenda for Tuesday, March 26th, but they have such a tight agenda, they're moving me to May. So, and I won't do the same one I did before. They're actually looking more of an electric utility 101 type presentation, kind of the highlights for each of our divisions, in basically, what it means to be, an electric utility. So that's kind of the focus in May. So I'll give you the date, or Tracy will send you the date as we get closer if anybody wants to go.
It's just at the select board meeting. That's where you're.
Yeah, so I talk to the manager first, and what happens is I'll show him, like, here's the topics I'm gonna discuss, and he can add things, change things, whatever, and then I'll produce the slides, and then in May, I'll go in and we'll do the slides.
And they requested it? Or did you
Well,
just
I
offer it?
usually go to
Okay,
the town,
all
like,
right.
once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Vanessa asked for one. We just did one in November for the town meeting, so I
Yes.
would have waited a little longer, but this is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to have board representation there, just for continuity.
I agree.
Absolutely. Thanks for volunteering.
Thank you, Tom.
Just wanted to go back real quick to something you mentioned about
Never
green
be
communities.
against punishment.
So Reading is not a designated green community, correct?
Correct.
So I was just looking at what it is, what a green community, what that means. So it might be worth just mentioning what it means. It's a designation it means that the municipality can get financial and technical support if the municipality pledges to cut municipal energy use by 20% over 5 years. and meet some other criteria. So more than half of the municipalities in the state are in this, and 2/3 of the state's population. And from what we're hearing, Reading is not.
We have to look more into whether or not the town of Reading has access to those monies when they don't contribute through their electric company. So there's some more conversation that maybe we can have offline that
Okay.
Chuck's is evaluating right now. Because we're not, the town of Reading's not paying into it.
Yep.
So the money can go through that way. And we just want to make sure that we're
Oh, some of the
partnering.
other communities Dave's talking about, their towns are paying into it
They're paying,
separately?
the towns are paying something?
No,
to-
the electric, it's going.
Their
through the
utilities,
electric, right.
okay.
Oh, this just says that these are municipalities who have pledged to cut municipal energy use by 20%.
Right, but.
I'm reading off the state's
Do you wanna
website, yeah.
Chime in, since you did some of the
Yeah.
research?
Those municipalities are, for the most part, situated in investor-owned utility service territories.
Got it.
Because there's a couple of hundred
Yes.
municipalities in Massachusetts, only 41
yeah.
of which
Yeah, right.
are municipal light plants.
Right.
There are 4, possibly 5 municipal light plants, the smaller ones in western Massachusetts, that signed on for the Green Communities program when it was initially launched. None of the others have signed up. I have been speaking with the executive director for Green Communities, as was mentioned earlier. He is a resident in Lynnfield, and the Lynnfield town manager connected us. He and I are looking at ways that we can cooperate and work to the benefit of the 4 communities that we serve. One of the things that gives us access to their resources is if there is an investor-owned customer within the municipal service territory, obviously not served by the municipal electric system. We believe there are a couple. We have some concerns about, as Colleen said, tapping into monies that we didn't raise. On the other hand, there are some RGGI funds, Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative funds, and some of the VW funds that they have available that were not generated by ratepayers of investor-owned utilities, and that we may be able to cooperatively work to use to the benefit of the municipalities. So we would be working towards that goal. I would point out that a 20% reduction over 5 years becomes challenging if we're doing an electrification program where we are trying to convert gas-consuming vehicles in the transportation sector and oil-consuming shells in the business, in the buildings sector for home and business heating to heat
Yeah.
pumps.
Competing.
So
Yeah.
that kind of puts some challenges
Yeah.
there.
It just
But we
says
are
energy
looking to
use,
work
yeah.
with the green communities.
It's a great thing to be doing. So it's complicated. It says energy use here, so I don't know if that is only electricity. It doesn't include.
It is not only
Okay.
electricity, it's all fuels
Okay.
across all sectors. But that gets us also into managing non-electric usage in town properties as well. So I would prefer to work on a cooperative basis, look for joint ventures that we can do, joint investment opportunities. We put some in, they put some in, and the municipality benefits that much more. So we are working.
Well, it sounds like you have the right contact with the person that runs the whole thing in our service area, and you're connected to him, so.
Yep, and in fact, he and I exchanged another round of emails just this afternoon, so.
Great.
Okay, good.
Great.
Great.
All right. Are we going back to Chuck now? Are you done with your part?
Done, thank you.
All right, back to you, Chuck,
Okay,
even though we really never left you.
well. This is the boring part of the evening where I tell you, everything's going really well, nothing has changed, everything's on course, no bad news. Sorry.
We like that. Keep it boring.
So what you see up here is the differential in the budget to actual for power supply for January. And the reason that actual is down is that January weather was a little warmer than average, and as a result, sales were down, load was down, we didn't purchase as much. So that's pretty much where that is. But again, it's easy enough to sit here and say, we're under budget.
As if it's a good thing.
Yeah, as if being 12% below
Right.
expectations is a good thing.
What's that?
So this is the energy piece component that we're looking at. And again, it's the same story. Energy is the biggest piece of it. So this is going to be the one that's most reflective of where the loads are. And since the price is relatively fixed under our power supply agreements, what we're looking at is more energy kilowatt hour driven than it is dollar driven, even though these are dollar values. Transmission cost, if the peaks are down, we don't pay as much for transmission, but you'll notice that the gap is a lot closer on this than it was on the energy one. And capacity costs don't change much because capacity cost is set in the summertime, and we pay that as a flat monthly rate. So the variance there actually comes from ISO adjustments. So you would expect the capacity cost difference to be negligible. This is the stacking of the resources in our portfolio. Yellow is market. That's the one that we want to call the most attention to because it has the potential to be the most volatile. In the month of January, the loads were less than the energy in the portfolio, and so you'll notice that the yellow is actually below the zero line. That means that we were net sellers into the market.
Good.
What about November and December and?
I did those already.
I know.
Like I said, I'm
You're
sorry.
going to fill this out as we go along, aren't you?
I'm just boring. I'm sorry. Wait till you see February.
Right.
No change.
All right, good. And you have we have a motion too on,
We will. Is that up on the agenda next?
Yeah.
yeah.
This is actually interesting and fun. We have the opportunity to buy an additional 3% of our load from a hydro resource that is dispatchable. There are two plants in Connecticut that will be delivered to the Massachusetts hub, and those two plants have ponding capability behind them, so they do have storage capability. They are dispatchable. The contract price is $52 and change a megawatt hour. We are getting main recs along with it. The price will be just north of $51 a megawatt hour. Around the clock, energy prices between $45 and $50 a megawatt hour. Peak is 48 to 50. So we're very close to the marginal energy price in the market for a hydroelectric resource. So we will be able on our AQ31 report to improve the non-carbon aspects of our portfolio. This is a 10-year deal that will start April 1st if approved.
Nice job.
Good.
That's great. Want the
All
motion?
right, somebody to read the motion?
Move that the RMLD Board of Commissioners authorize the general manager of the Reading Municipal Light Department to finalize negotiation and execute a contract with First Light Power Resources for the output of the Shupog, have I got that right, and Stevenson hydroelectric facilities.
Second? Second?
Second?
All right. Discussion? Any questions or comments? No?
It
All
should
those,
add- We should add that's on the recommendation of general manager at the end of that, the motion.
okay, on the recommendation of
Just one
the
question, what does
general manager?
dispatchable
Yep.
mean?
And all those in favor?
Oh, I just one
Oh,
question.
you do have a question.
I did have a question, yeah. My question was, what does dispatchable mean?
Dispatchable means that ISO can call for the unit to be on, and the unit will then start producing.
Ah, okay. So it's on demand,
yeah.
basically.
Solar is non-dispatchable. It's available when
Right.
the sun shines. Wind is non-dispatchable. It's available when the wind blows. A run-of-the-river hydro plant does not have storage capacity behind any dam that it may have, and so it's not dispatchable.
Thank you.
But a dispatchable unit, that would include nuclear units. It would include the Stony Brook units that we have entitlements in, and in this case,
And out of curiosity, how long can it be dispatchable? I mean, the pond only lasts so long.
the pond only lasts so long. That's why I said it's partially dispatchable. Okay.
During wet weather.
Well, hydro is available, as Commissioner Talbot pointed out, on a seasonal basis. August is a very tight month for hydro, and they do have to meet some fish ladder requirements when they run the river. There are minimum flow rates through there, so we may not get a lot of energy. And so it is available when it rains.
Great. Yeah.
But partially dispatchable means that we can usually use it against high energy cost periods of the
Right.
day. We don't have to let it run at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. Great, thank you.
Okay.
I do have one
Oh,
quick,
yeah, go ahead.
quick follow, and it's not on you, Chuck, to answer, but was just looking more into this green communities thing. And as I understand it, it's the municipality is the one who decides whether they want to go for this designation and then get access to the technical support and the funds. And that this question of a light plant municipality being different, I'm sure there's something there. I am reading that Shrewsbury and Hingham just did become green communities. They have municipal light plants. And looking at the map, there's a few others like Belmont and others that are municipal light plants where the community is a designated green community. So I think it's a good question to bring back, for the select board is, what does the town think about gaining such a designation and how does that all work? And this seems like there's a lot of good stuff to look into there. So I just wanted to elaborate on what I saw as far as the municipal light plant angle, not precluding towns from being green communities.
No, towns are not precluded. And as I said at the outset, there are 4 or 5 municipalities in western Massachusetts with municipal light plants that joined on the initial startup. We are evaluating, based on where we are, what our situation is, and what Green Communities offers, what the maximum advantage that we can get for the municipalities is. So,
But doesn't the town of Reading have to join up doesn't that help if the town side does something? I mean, why is it just us doing it? Yeah, it's okay. We can do it.
Can we just go back to,
Yeah.
he's already been, I've already delegated
Yep.
for him to do the analysis of this, so we've
Okay.
just started, so it's almost like
It's early.
just a little early,
Right.
but
Okay,
at the
that's
next
fair enough.
meeting, we can, or even before the next meeting, I can send out a memo
Yep.
and let you know what I found
Yep.
before,
Yeah, and
before
you
I
have.
tell you how those ones you just mentioned got in there.
Sure.
And it's also, but I'm actually not, it's not on you guys. It's more like I'm saying this from the DS because I think it's something that the town side, if we're not in this now, and I just wonder why, not the light plant, but the town. That's all.
the towns need to have an IOU customer in their service territory now to be able to join. There is a loophole in the legislation. We now have identified one or more grid customers in our service territory, and they're talking about all 4 towns in.
Okay. As usual, I'm ahead of what I know. You know, my mouth runs ahead of what's in my brain.
It's a loophole.
It happens.
I'm not a big fan of loopholes, so we just want to make sure that
Okay.
we understand it before we approach the town.
Can we finish?
We're in the middle of a motion here, and
Let's finish
you're
the
right,
vote.
John, I lost
I thought
control.
we were-
As a chair, we were,
You did,
we
you
were in the
lost
discussion
control.
phase of a motion,
Sorry,
and
I
you
didn't-
kind of took us in another discussion, and I let you do it. And so now we're going to vote. All those in favor
Yep.
of that motion that we were talking about? All right, 5-0-0. And Tracy, are we voting on the Energy New England one now, too? So Chuck is going to give us, okay.
For January 24th will not be included.
No, I think you're talking
And there'll be change,
No, like on item C here.
Yeah.
Are we doing this now? Okay.
as long as you're done with that.
Yeah, we're done with that one, right.
But when you make the motion, January 24th,
Right.
and October 18th be as amended, because Tom pointed out that I had a.
I don't think Dave, yeah, I don't think Dave's
Oh.
not talking meeting minutes, you're talking something else, aren't you?
It says Energy New England,
Right,
attachment 3.
3, right.
Right.
That would be, the minutes that I sent you.
Okay, so it is the minutes.
Sorry, there shouldn't have been an attachment there.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All right, so this is just a motion to approve the minutes. Okay. All right, do we have a motion, Phil, on this?
So we knocking out January 24th, 2019?
Don't read that one.
Okay.
Okay.
That's because somebody didn't review the minutes. We'll leave that person alone.
Okay.
Move that the Board of Commissioners approve the executive session minutes of September 20, 2018, October 18, 2018, and February 13, 2019, on the recommendation of the General Manager.
All right, second?
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? All right, 5-0-0. Excellent.
Sorry, you're supposed to.
What I do? Oh, yes, I vote yes
All right,
in
5-0-0.
favor of releasing the minutes as
That's
described
right.
in the motion.
That's right.
As seconded.
Maybe you was waiting to
was
take the
my
discussion.
Just wanted to think
You
about
wanna
it
do the
another minute,
discussion.
okay? These
Ask
minutes
Chuck
are
another
very
question during the
important.
discussion of approving the minutes. All right, good. Chuck, I think you've done your thing, right? You're good.
I thought I did my thing a while ago.
Thank you for your research and your work on that and on this other thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we have Wendy coming up with some finance reporting. And while she's coming up, I'll make a note that Karen Herrick is here from the Finance Committee. Good to have you.
Hi,
Thanks for
Karen.
coming, Karen.
Welcome, Karen.
We're happy to take any comments or questions for you along the way, so chime in.
What fiscal year are we in?
I am going to go over that as a reminder.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. So, I would like to start with a reminder that we have just closed the 6-month transition period for the gap of 6 months transitioning from fiscal year June 30 into now calendar year 12/31.
So we do no more 6 months. We're done with that?
This is
Now we're going to do full 12 months from now on.
12 months from now on, starting January 1st through December 31st, 19.
All right.
Okay? So with that being said, these financials can be misleading, just so you know that. So as you know, everything we do on a budget cycle is for 12 months. And when you try to simply divide that, when you've done a full year cycle, timing takes a big play into that. Not
Because of
only
seasonal things.
Right,
and-
exactly.
yeah,
Not
right.
only with sales, but expenses, projects
Right.
that were supposed to be done with certain weather conditions, maybe didn't get done on time. Just want to remind you of that.
Okay.
Okay? So I just want to tell you, too, that this is a draft because usually the auditors would present our final financial information, but because of the actuarial with the OPEB and the pension, new GASB laws, it seems to be holding everything up, and I didn't want to hold you guys up. So this is a draft, and it very well could change, especially in relation to pension and OPEB.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there should be no changes. Okay?
Okay.
So the auditors were on site the week of March 4th. It was a week that we had some snow, so it wasn't as quick and easy as we had hoped, but, you know, they came in, they did a great job as always. They're still doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. We have some things we need to finalize, reporting and whatnot. So, but it's still ongoing, and we're shooting maybe for a May presentation, just so you know. So my first slide is what I love, a pie chart. And it just gives you a quick overall look of the cash balances. So if you quickly look, you'll see that the operating fund is at 18.3 million. Combined depreciation fund and the construction fund are at 10 million, and that's in preparation for our upcoming capital projects for 2019. And then you have your sick leave cash that's restricted for the sick leave liability. That has come down to $2.9 million. And then, of course, you have your pension trust at $5.8 million. That's cash that we have for the pension. Your customer deposits, hazardous waste, and uncollectible accounts. And then you have your deferred ECC reserve, so we can only use that for energy conservation projects. And, of course, we have the rate stabilization fund, which is to supplement a burden on our customers in case of an emergency at $7 million. So we'll go to the next slide. So here it is. This is where I was talking about the timing of things. So it appears that we are under budget at this moment in time for the 6 months ended 12/31 of about $800,000. And there are many components to that. Once again, let's not forget we have many vacancies that we're trying very hard to fill. And the timing of projects, that's really the bulk of it. And then when you go to the last slide, I think you guys like this slide, so I bring it up every so often. It shows how we continue to reinvest in our capital infrastructure. So not only are we taking our net income or our rate of return, but we're adding more. We're adding more from what we're allowed from the depreciation fund. So if you look at it, just starting in FY14 all the way through FY18, those are your full years. So if you look at the red depicts the depreciation. So that's what's reserved specifically for capital projects. And if, with the exception of FY15, every year we have gone beyond the depreciation fund in order to update our capital infrastructure, because the updates were not there. So I know you guys like this slide, so I'd like to continue to show you how much we continue to invest in the capital side of things for the safety and reliability of our infrastructure. So on those slides in particular, do we have any questions? Okay,
There's
so,
a lot of things moving around, so it's
yes. So I just want to, I gave you the financials in front of you. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on them, but I just wanted to point them out to you that, you know, everything's in good order. But like I said, the timing of things. As we see this increase, we quickly turn around in January and February, and we see almost similar of a decrease. Because as Chuck mentioned, the months were not as cold as we expected, so it's really going to flip-flop real quickly. But it's going to be, you know, within the new calendar year. So it's not going to be reflective of these numbers. So it's not like it's going to be carried forward. So we're ending up with a loss at the beginning of 2019, even though we ended up with positive results at the end of 2018. So is there anything in particular that you wanted to go over? Yes, Tom.
just a question,
Tom.
if you have it, so, you know, we've been kind of trying to keep an eye on operating revenues, and I know a lot of, you're in the midst of this transition for
Yes.
fiscal years, but do you have any sense of, you know, if we just look at first quarter, I know March is still in process, but, you know, is there a trend line? Is it up or down or flat or?
Well, since we're in March, we can't really, we can't determine that. But January and February alone, we're at about a 3.5% loss in kilowatt-hour sales.
Yeah.
So it's actually accelerated from
Yes.
before.
Jeez,
Is that a year to, like January, February, year to date is?
Just January and February together, yes.
3.5% down?
Down, yes. just because of the weather, you know,
Warmer
in
year.
particular.
Yeah.
And how would, I don't know if you'd be able to answer this, but how would that compare traditionally to January, February, you know, in previous years? Do we usually have a negative and then we?
Well, typically we have our, and maybe Colleen would like to speak to this, or Chuck, but typically we do certain 6 months are higher, and then the other 6 months are lower. So this past 6 months, the fall, if you remember, the weather was warm. Well, we had the July, August, September, where we had some warm weather. So that really is what increased the sales. You really can't predict it, right? Typically, those are the hotter months. So that's why this is very misleading, because we end our fiscal year on June 30, and in this case, you know, we don't have the full 12-month look. Does that answer your question, Tom?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I thought you were saying it was 3.5% down, just comparing it to January and February of last year.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
that's exactly what I said.
all right, thanks.
Looks
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
substantial.
It is, yeah, so I don't know how the other commissioners feel. I think that's such an important metric for us, maybe to the extent, and I know you can't project some of the months till you close, but in any guidance you can give us, just so we have the historical, but just like you just said, knowing
Yes.
how the year-to-date numbers look is helpful.
So it's going to be very difficult this year, I just want to let you know that, to compare year to year. Because now you're comparing a different, even though you're comparing 12 months overall, with this being said, you know, the first 6 months are hotter than the last 6 months, it's going to be hard to compare numbers. So, and even the auditors, they will not give us comparable financial statements for that point. Because, you know, even when you're trying to get projects done before the fiscal year ends, and you're trying to meet deadlines, you know, your whole year changes. So all of that changes. And I know you don't necessarily like to hear the timing, because it's not really an excuse, it's the fact.
But to repeat what you said, obviously the hotter months should reflect higher operating revenues, right?
Yes.
Do we think that the 3.5% down off of January, February last year, that 3.5%, is that mostly due to weather, or is it half? Or you think all of it's weather? Or is it, yeah, because we were talking about our revenues dropping about 1 or 2% per year. I'm just wondering if it's equally, is that equally contributing to this downward trend?
Yeah.
I think that would be, weather is significant,
Okay,
but I think we can give Chuck an opportunity, maybe not at this meeting, to look at the reduction per class. And if you look at the reduction per class of use, you can kind of weed out what was weather and what we've had for whether or not there's a pattern in the classes. You know what I mean? Because even though if the weather goes down, all the classes go down, but you might be able to get a little bit more analysis.
might be able to tease out what the real difference
Exactly.
was, right? Okay, that'd be good to know. Because that would be, if it wasn't mostly weather, that would be
Yeah.
very
No, it's mostly-
important information.
I think that statistical analysis would be very interesting, maybe going back 10 years or so, Chuck, something like that. 100.
Dennis, you have a question?
Well, I comment. For the town of Wilmington, what I do is I have a trend of all my utility costs, whether it's RMLD or fuel, but I also trend weather. And I look at the last, from 2013 to now, and it looks like, oh, I've done this great job saving money, but if you look at the weather at the same time, you can really see weather drives my savings. Plus our energy conservation, but when you trend weather to expenses, sometimes you really see where that's coming from.
Right.
And you look at a 3 to 5 year window, that really helps you understand that, you know, you had a couple cold years and you're right around where those are. This year here was off, and that could be your
So
skew.
you think it's probably, this 3.5% is mostly weather?
It could be, but that's why you trend both.
Right.
You know, and keep a metric on both, so that way you can see how it affects you.
The difficulty is that warm weather is great, right? I mean, in terms of how we feel about it, up to a certain point. When it gets too warm, you turn on your air conditioner, and that drives our sales. So up to a certain point, we're dropping because the winters are warmer.
Right.
If the summers are hotter, it kind of balances
My costs
out.
are going up, but I'm also showing my trend of the weather doing the same thing. So I'm still saving money, but the weather is driving my end result.
I'm
Right.
sure there's a correlation, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the comment, Dennis.
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, the real value of the whole discussion is to track the other thing is we've been tracking kind of flattening to slightly declining. So
Right.
what we have to sort of, the analysis piece is, at some point, if the weather changes long enough, then we have to assume that's the model, right?
Well,
So
yeah.
we gotta figure out how we address the weather. as opposed-
Absolutely,
because
yeah.
Well, I don't think what we've seen is an offsetting weather pattern that says, gee, we're down 3, but we're just up 10%, weather related. So it's really tracking the sales variance to both budget and last year, but then also if we can explain the variance. And some of the explanation, of course, is we're doing a good job with solar and a lot of other cost savings things. So
Efficiencies, yeah.
It's that efficiency piece. Nonetheless, and then the other piece is what are the offsets that may not be experienced yet? They're doing all the initiatives, Colleen, that you have that are driving with the team, that may not happen now, but we can look to the future and say, okay, we're down to 2 or 3%, but economic development, solar,
Right.
battery, that kind of thing.
Right. Good. Dave, did you have some? No, okay. Anybody else?
Okay.
Yeah.
That
Thank
concludes
you.
my presentation.
Oh, thank you, Wendy.
Thank
That was
you.
good.
We have a question.
Oh, yes,
What the-
absolutely. Should you come up, Karen?
Yep, sure, please.
Right over the mic,
Over the
Karen.
mic,
So
yeah.
The mic,
we want to
so
get you on TV and everything.
Say hi to the family if you like.
Right.
I am new. Thank
Welcome,
you.
Karen.
Thank you. Love that the lights are on. It's awesome. Quick question. I was wondering for your capital plan, I see it does vary year to year, and I was just curious as to FY19. What is the number you think? Are you aiming for 5 million?
So FY19 is over, so it was originally supposed to end in June 30, but we transitioned to 12/31. So FY19 is over, so those are the final numbers,
Okay.
just for the 6 months.
So, okay, so I was just wondering for whatever 12-month period it is, will capital be significantly lower than $6 million or? so-
Significantly higher.
Oh, it's gonna be a lot higher. So
Yes,
what
it
will
will
it be
be.
roughly?
I don't have my budget in front of me. Oh, wait, maybe I do.
Just like,
Yeah, roughly, we're looking at about 9.3 million.
okay. Thanks, just curious, all right. So cash rate stabilization funds, I was just wondering, and my experience has been with Reading and our use of that for sewer and water.
Mhm.
And I was wondering, how often does RMLD actually have to dip into the cash rate stabilization fund?
Well, I've been here almost 8 years, and we have not.
Right.
Okay,
In my 33 years, I think there's been at least maybe 7 or 8 times.
okay.
Right.
But not recently.
Not
Not
recently. No,
But if you
no.
don't have it,
Curious.
Right.
you're
we
really in
don't need
trouble.
it,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I didn't know if this was a situation where it was like critical dependency.
Mhm.
No, but it's there if you need it.
So I think it's easy for someone to look at it and go, it's sort of a piggy bank that we kind of have there. And the answer is it is not.
Right.
So as, can I just explain?
And it also means that like everything's under control and being well managed. It's there for
That's right.
emergencies, so.
Can
not
I
a
just
bad thing.
explain one thing quickly? Colleen has mentioned this in the past, and Hamid, if there were a catastrophic event or loss of a substation, it would most likely cost us anywhere between $8 and $9 million just to
Exactly.
keep things running while we are
Mhm.
rebuilding a substation.
That's right.
So we wouldn't want to pass that off to our customers as a burden.
Right.
So that is a situation where we would dip into that.
And that's the worst catastrophic thing you guys can come up with, and that's roughly the.
Is that the
It's
worst?
one of them. A
One of-
loss of a major customer, coincident, multiple customers. We have a,
That you'd get advance notice. I mean, but you'd.
we hope,
Yeah, well, probably.
Um,
If they got washed away.
yeah, probably the loss of a substation, pretty significant.
It's a good example. Okay.
Hurricane.
Yep. Right. I was curious, in this, the municipal, statement of revenues.
Yes.
The legal fees were a lot, significantly more. Was that an unusual thing?
No, there's actually some power legal issues with FERC, and maybe Chuck or Colleen would like to speak to that, and that's really where the majority of the additions are.
Legal fees.
The legal fees, the additional for power supply, the lawsuits. with power-
We've had, I can have Chuck, we've had, this industry, we have a lot of legal battles with FERC implemented changes where, because we support the little guy, we have to hire lawyers aggregately with the other 41 municipals, and we fight. So Chuck can give you a couple of examples. Legal fees go up, but then usually, most often, we'll get a, it'll get settled and we'll get money back. You know what I mean? But the legal battle up front is very costly, but I can let him give you an example.
If I could, Karen, I know you're going through a number of different items. Could I suggest that you do this offline rather than, for the efficiency?
That was number 3, and I definitely
Okay,
don't
fine.
want
Just because it's the efficiency of our process
That
here
one
to
was
get
a
through.
60% increase, so I was just asking whether that was an anomaly. That's really all I'm asking.
Thank you.
Do you want me to raise
Yeah, just.
Okay, that's all.
You all set,
Yep.
Chuck?
it? Okay.
He's gonna give you an example of one so that you better understand it.
Okay. The large item that you're referring to was an unanticipated litigation before FERC, where we were trying to keep Mystic 8 and 9 up and running. It resulted in about a $250,000 legal expense over a short term. However, the affirmation of the running of the plant will save RMLD a little over $2 million a year for a couple of years beginning in 2023. So it's going to be a deferred benefit.
It's an anomaly. That was my question. Quick question. Under operating revenues, fuel revenue, is that the item on my bill that is like the fuel charge? Is that what that is?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
And just as a,
For asking, we like audience participation.
Yeah,
Most
thank you
people
for
don't
coming.
read the stuff we
Thanks,
teach
Karen.
you. I have one final question.
And, oh, Wendy, before you go, Tom has a question for
Yeah,
you.
so just another piece, so we're about 3.5% off this year to last year, January, February. And what is it relative to budget? I can't remember where the budget was for those 2 months, so do you know what?
I actually don't have that on top of my
Do you
head,
have any
sorry.
sense of that, Colleen?
Yeah, because I've just closed
For
December. I haven't
January,
even
we just had it
gotten
up.
into
You
I'm
mean for
sorry,
the
Tom.
full year?
I can email you and let you know.
Okay, yeah, I think that would just be helpful. Good, thank you, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy. I think we're good. And Hamid,
Okay, Chuck has it.
Chuck, yeah.
Were you asking about January?
Well,
That was the
ideally
first-
both, but January, whatever we have for year, budget versus actual.
For 2019?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first slide that I had up this evening. I don't know if Wendy can get back to it.
He was talking about kilowatt hour sales.
Yeah, they're going to be down about the same proportion,
Okay.
so
Just let it be.
Yeah, so I guess.
I can get you the
question
actual on that.
Is the operating revenues for 20, I know we're in a different fiscal year, but I'm just wondering, are we sort of budgeting a flat year for operating revenues? If we looked at it on a calendar year
Yes.
to calendar year basis?
Yes.
Kind of. Okay, good.
we can have Wendy revisit the budget to actual so far with your forecasted for the entire year, if you'd like to do that have that as a presentation for next
Yeah.
meeting.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think that'd be.
Will that be
Yeah,
helpful?
that'd be fine.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds fine.
Yep.
All right, Hamid. Welcome. Good evening.
I'm glad to give you a report for actually, my report is current.
And we're glad to receive your report as well.
In a new format, I've
I'm the
noticed.
big spender.
Yeah, look at, you're changing up the
Got-
slides
got
every
some
month
new
on us
slide-
now.
new look
You're really
in the
getting creative, Hamid.
Yeah, trying to add
Where do you
some
get
pictures
these?
so to give you just some sense of what's going on. So
Yeah.
you see that,
Where do you
how
get
we
these
spend the
templates?
money. All right, the first project, these are the major construction projects that they're either underway or they're recently completed. The 4W5, 4W12 Getaway Improvements at Station 4. This is the capital authorization projects that we're trying to increase the ratings of underground cable so the feeders, they can carry more capacity. And we got the cable trays, and these two circuits are being pulled out of the underground and they making a transition to the overhead, so they will open up more room for the heat exchange and improving the ratings of the rest of the feeders coming out of that substation. So this project is moving right along. The both overhead and also the work that needs to be done inside the station. The next one is 3W13 riser. This pole, this riser out on Chestnut Street outside Station 3 was hit by a motor vehicle and it got damaged, severely damaged. So that was repaired, and we transferred everything back to the riser, brought it back to normal configuration. 5W5 Andover Access Road upgrade, that's a capital project. That included upgrading 5 poles between Andover Street and Salem Street in Wilmington. And those poles, they were replaced, and overhead wires, they were upgraded. So they matched the rest of the feeders for the ratings. The next one is, I think you'll like to see that. Actually, I was there yesterday. Station 3, the battery storage, it's going, the excavation, the ground excavation started. So they're making progress. What we've done, we provided them 2 poles, transformer, and the secondary wires. So they're ready to pick up their service for the auxiliary service of the battery storage. So as soon as they pull the cables, the contractor is pulling the cables to service the auxiliary system, we can hook them up. So we are ready. So for them, as soon as they're ready. So that project is in progress. Station 4, 4W6 and 4W16 getaway replacements. That's again another capital improvement project. The cables are in our stock, ready. We're waiting just for warmer weather so we can pump the manholes, pump the water out, and replace those getaways again to improve the ratings of the underground cables for the reliability. The next one is the area upgrade projects. Again, the secondary main and services that includes upgrading primary wires, open wire, service wires, secondaries, the transformers, and what we did we did one of the biggest area in North Reading, that Burdett Road in North Reading, that was completed. We upgraded poles, primaries, secondaries, wires, and that area now is, that was one of the area that we were concerned with the reliability, and then now everything is reconstructed and working well. The underground facility upgrades, we completed Gazebo Circle in Reading. We replaced the last transformer on Moran Road in Linfield. The one Padmont transformer was replaced, and crews are in the process of replacing the underground cable as we speak. So Friendship Lane also in Linfield, they upgraded the transformer and underground cable, that it's in progress. It's a little bit longer process for that. So these are the improvements to URDs, the underground areas. The next slide showing you the maintenance program. Basically, I'm not going to go over all of those, but we're making good progress on the maintenance of the transformers as well as the overhead. We've replaced lots of underground transformers, as you could see from the original list that I gave you back in 2015. So as you know, this is the moving target, so we are trying to catch up. Anything over 20 to 25 years old, we have a list. We got like about 1,800 transformers in that category. And we're conducting another study just to see where we are, and continuously improving the processes. And actually, we could manage to kind of not completely put the oil leak to stop, because we still got old transformers out there, but at least to bring it to manageable level. So, which is good, is a progress. The pole testing inspections, that's one of my favorite programs, and we tested 259 poles, and we basically transferred 231. The feeder inspection, that's routinely, that's what the guys, they do really on rainy days. They patrol the areas. The infrared scan, we scan the substations as well as the parks quarterly. Substations every month, quarterly for the parks. No problems. We could find in any of those. Manhole inspection and porcelain cutout replacement are ongoing as we go to the improvements, making improvements in the areas both overhead and underground. So we are making those upgrades as well. The next slide shows the double poles. As you could see, the Linfield, we've got 30 transfers to do. In Reading, 30 transfers, 18 pole butts that needs to be removed. North Reading, we've got 3 transfers and 20 pole butts that we need to remove. And in Wilmington, we need to make 28 transfers and 1 pole butt that needs to be removed out of the area. As you recall, North Reading and half the Reading is RMLD's custodial area.
Right.
And the other areas, towns are Verizon's. So we're making progress on transferring those double poles. But that shows how much improvements we're making throughout the system. So these numbers, again, these are moving targets up and down, up and down. The next slide shows the reliability indices that we are well below, even though we had few storms this year and we didn't have much outages, we did really well reliability-wise, and the numbers basically they show that, they reflect that. The SAIDI, KD, and SAFE are well below the national and regional averages. So reliability, we're doing good. The last slide basically showing you the causes of the outages in, as of February 2019. As you can see, again, we're doing well below the 5 years average, but this is only 2 months comparison. And motor vehicle accidents, I'm hoping that this is going down because this has been hover already it has contributed to the outages significantly. We've had 11 of those, last year we had, and it was really made some serious damages. The 3W3 riser out on Chestnut Street.
Really?
A week.
Wow.
To fix that.
Huh.
So it's
Do we need to
amazing.
put on bigger poles or
Well, unless if you put
sandbags around the
guardrails,
front or
guardrails.
guardrails maybe, yeah.
Or Jersey barriers. Those are the only way that Actually,
Right.
the snowbanks, they help
Yeah,
us.
snowbanks,
They
sure.
protect our poles.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm done. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Questions for Hamid? Dennis?
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, all right. I guess you want to buy some things, Hamid,
Oh,
today?
yeah. Always buying.
Okay. You want the motion?
Yes, maybe we'll
right.
start a motion, then you can give us the,
Right. Move that bid 2019-9 for one Class V fork truck with 12,000-pound load capacity be awarded to Northland Industrial Truck Company, Inc. as the lowest and most responsible bidder for $60,500 pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, on the recommendation of General Manager.
second?
Second?
All right, and background.
All right, you see that, there are 2 bidders that participated. The lowest bidder was $51,272. That's the Endless Sales Incorporation. And they took exception because we had requested for a limited, for the limited free lift fork truck. And they gave us the full, which means this is basically those big cylinders that, they right in front of the fork truck. And they're obstacle to actually the movement of the truck because we needed to move stuff inside the storage area. And we needed those tanks to be in the back so they're not blocking the view. So this one we had to award a bid to the next lowest responsive bidder for $60,500, which
Okay.
they want.
Questions or discussion for Hamid? Yeah.
I mean, how many total bids came in?
2.
Is there any reason, I would have thought an item like forklifts would get more? Is it just,
They sent the bid to all of these, as you see on the front, 1, 2, 3. These are 8 companies, 8 vendors, basically. Some people, for different reasons, they don't, We see that quite often for transformers as well. We send like 20 or 30 vendors or
Is there something
distributors.
special about this?
This is pretty much
People should have it?
Yeah, and this is something that they have. So in this particular one, only 2 decided to participate, and it happens.
Okay.
So it's been advertised, everybody knows about it, and
Yeah.
we actually send the bid to these people too. And for one reason or another, they decide not to participate, or maybe the
Okay.
timing is not good.
Any other questions or discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 500. All right, next.
Move that-
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Move the proposal IFP 2019-10 for pole-mounted transformers be awarded to Graybar Electric Company, Inc. for a total of $68,224. I'm assuming that should be
It looks like
pursuant.
there may be a typo there.
Yeah. $224.
224, there's just a 1 instead of a
comma.
decimal point, probably.
We're going to pay an extra dime, I guess, maybe.
Okay.
Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 56D, on the recommendation of the General Manager.
Second, okay. And just so that is the right number, then, Tracy, it's 668,224? All right. Well, no, well, she's okay, great.
Yeah, that's right.
And discussion, background.
Okay, these are the pole top transfer. The next 2 bids basically are pole top transformers and pad mount transformers that we use for new business or workers for both commercial residentials, as well as our transformer load management program that we annually we go out to bid. And these bids actually they came out lower than the last time, so we're saving some money. You know, it's amazing. The timing makes a big difference. This time around, you know, we made out really. There were some savings. So I have some more money left that we're gonna go for more transformers the next time.
Excellent.
Okay.
Discussion or questions for Hamid?
I-
Go ahead.
This is more a general question on items like this, Hamid, and this doesn't affect voting on this item, but are there items that of this size, dollars, are there any opportunities to have like longer-term blanket orders? So in other words, we must go through a lot of transformer stuff, so rather than spending, 300,000 or $500,000 this year, if we commit to a longer period and have them in releases, because you kind of know maybe not where you're going to need it, but you could probably estimate pretty quickly. I just wonder if there's an opportunity there.
We did that with the switches, with those smart grid switches.
Yeah.
We did that like a blanket 5-year, and actually we
Yeah, that's what I'm
did
kinda-
quite savings we did. With the transformers, to be honest with you, we haven't done that. And I'm not sure that, because the price of the metal keeps going, it's volatile market, goes up and down, up and down. So I'm not sure how that works. I don't know anybody who's done that, but I can find out to see that, if that's
Yeah, it's just
possible, and we could
okay.
do that. Yeah, we used to go, if you recall, twice a year.
Yeah.
Or sometimes 3 times a year, depending on the need and the inventory. But this time around, we decided to go for the, I might have to come back for more because I got more money left. We thought that it's all gonna be spent by this bid, but they came out lower. So, but usually we try to go once a year, and with the delivery is gonna be staggered. So we don't pay any storage fees.
If I may, just a quick question. I thought at one point there was a supply side issue with transformers. It was difficult to.
Because of the
get them.
storms and all of everything that was going south for the areas that they got hit.
The hurricanes and,
Right,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
my concern would be, we could certainly investigate it, but whether they go on allocation, for, if it's major storms coming through the United States, giant hurricanes or whatever, all
You
of a
might
sudden
not
the
have
entire.
access. Yeah.
Exactly. The entire East Coast goes, we all need transformers at the same time.
One benefit that this way it has, if we give them a heads up, and actually if we give them a good, we give them, we go out to bid annually, that gives them ample time for manufacturing and scheduling. It all got to do with that too.
But to John's point, though, under, emergencies, I would think that would be
That should go
out
up.
the window.
Prices should go up during the emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the same thing.
But even the supply, wouldn't they, even though they've committed to us in an emergency, wouldn't they say, no, we're going to move this to where the
Yeah,
emergency
if
areas are?
Power was totally out in
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
states, I would think that they would just,
If it has happened, yes.
Yeah.
I've seen that happening. That
But you-
actually we had last year, we had these Trayer switches, pad mount switches. The manufacturer, because of the problems that they had in Midwest and also down in Florida, they shipped them. And
Yeah.
then the delivery, our delivery was postponed for almost a year.
John, your question is like, maybe we should not be so just in time and have a few,
I don't know, I think maybe.
maybe we're
should-
not. Maybe we
should
have
look
plenty
at
of
it.
reserve. I
I
don't,
mean, part of that, I've got clients who have, because of the whole trade issues that we're going through, they can't get semiconductors that are crucial parts of their power inverter systems, because they're actually packaged in China. They're made in the United States and just packaged in China, but they can't get them because of all the trade stuff that's going on. And so they're under severe allocation for being able to get any of these parts. So I don't know if transformers fall into that same category, maybe not, but this whole allocation thing is,
I know some of the transformers, they used to be manufactured in Mexico and Canada, but now they're being manufactured in the U.S.
But, I think the point is, if there's a severe crisis, whether you have a blanket order or you're just ordering it today for next month, you're not gonna get it.
right,
Right.
Yeah.
right.
That doesn't impact your,
well, that suggests we should have an inventory. We probably have an inventory of some sort, don't we?
Yes, we do have. We check the
yeah,
inventory.
that's another, my original thought was around just negotiating the price, let them carry the inventory so we don't end up,
Right.
with storage
Yeah.
costs and things like that, but.
Well, to your point, though, Tom, if you go with a sole source supplier, which we may not be able to do anyway, just because we have to put out for bid, they may give you a significant break because you're using them sole source, right?
Yeah, that's another angle.
All right. I think we got enough. Are we good on this one? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Motion carries 5-0-0.
all right.
And our last item,
Move
Phil?
the proposal IFP 2019-11 for pole-mounted transformers be awarded to Wesco Distribution.
Pad mounted.
Pad mounted?
Yeah.
Didn't I say pad mounted?
I think you said pole mounted.
Hold on, yeah, maybe.
Close enough.
What do you want, roll or?
Do you want me to read this?
Pad.
We got it.
Close enough. Wesco Distribution, Inc. for $206,755, and Howard Industries, Inc., care of Power Sales Group, Inc., for $87,120, for a total of $293,875, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 164, Section 46D, on the recommendation of the General Manager.
56D, yep.
56, yeah.
All right. And second?
Basically the same.
Second?
Sorry.
Now we're ready.
Oh, now
We
we're
got
ready.
the second. Now
We
go.
got 2 seconds.
Yeah, this is basically the same. These are the pad-mounted transformers. The previous one was pole-mounted.
Oh, okay.
Pad-mounted. So we went to 15 distributors, and we analyzed the prices and who's the lowest and who's the low, and also based on the spec, because they have to meet our certain criteria based on the Department of Energy Efficiency level. So it needs to, it's being analyzed, and then the bid went to multiple distributors. That's what that's why you see that there are different Howards. You got Power Sales and also Wesco, and they all didn't go to one because various ones they supply different size transformers that meet the spec.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you, Hamid.
Can we just
you,
one item, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yes.
Before Hamid?
Yes.
We apparently we solved the problem with that pole that's in Wakefield.
Yes.
Yes.
I sent you.
You sent me
we followed up with the
Right.
manager of engineering and operations,
Right.
and they visited. They decided to move the pole 2 feet inside.
Right.
Is this the one where all the
That was
construction's
the one
going on with
that-
the?
Well, no,
South
this-
Street
yeah.
and
Okay.
Yeah.
and
So
Hopkins.
basically, the background is that this was when the night we attended with the select board,
Yes,
there was an
it's a big
issue
issue.
on the 40B that's going in Wakefield. And there was, the residents from Reading were complaining that there's a pole at the corner of Hopkins and South Street that gets hit all the time and knocked over. And so I asked the department to look into it. It turns out the pole is actually in Wakefield and belongs to the Wakefield Light Department, and there's been cooperation between the Light Department here in Reading and them to kind of solve the problem.
Yes, they will,
So-
they are doing it.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so-
good. That worked
Okay.
out good. Thanks, Phil.
Okay. Very good.
Thanks, Hamid.
You are.
Any other general discussion items to follow on Phil?
I just have one item.
Go ahead.
And it's, I noticed that the former home, our former home on Haven Street,
The former home of this
of this
institution?
department, 25 Haven Street, I noticed that the pharmacy, Rite Aid, has moved out of there now, and it's become a vacant building, and I do hope that,
You want to move back?
no, I don't want to move back. I just hope that when somebody's going to go in there, and develop that place, as chair of the task force that had transitioned that
Okay.
to a commercial property, it's a little discouraging to see it vacant,
So this
It
is
used to be
your-
a supermarket, didn't it?
No.
Way back when?
No, the supermarket's on the other side of the street.
What was
Was
it
it?
before?
Yeah. No, it was the home of the light department.
No, but
Was it a
before.
supermarket?
Well, then it transitioned, it became Brooks Pharmacy, and then Brooks sold out to Rite Aid, and now the building is empty, and I guess Rite Aid has closed both their locations, and it's now going to be a Walgreens down off of Bolton Street, from what I now understand. So,
So you're hoping something else will go in there?
I
This
hope
is
something
a
else
public
goes in.
service announcement for
I
Phil
hope
Pacino.
something else goes in there.
Excellent.
We need ideas, Phil.
As the
right.
chair of the
Little advertising.
transition group, it
we need somebody
discouraged me to
who's
see that
listening
place
to this,
empty,
sure.
after all the work we went to get it open, so.
All right, good.
All right.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other general discussion items from anybody else? Or Dennis? No? Okay.
Okay.
So we just got to go over our board meetings. We have to move Thursday, April 18th. And can you guys check your calendars and see if we can move that to the next week?
Yeah, let's see.
How does everybody look for the following Thursday?
When is town meeting?
When's Thursday, yeah,
Oh.
that's fine with me. That'd be the
When is town meeting?
25th, right?
I don't know when town meeting is.
Right. I'm not sure
You
when
think it
town-
could be that?
I have a suspicion you may be, on
Oh.
a Thursday night, could be a town meeting.
Do you have that access to that, Tracy?
Yeah.
Well, what about
Well, we could do Wednesday.
Wednesday, the 24th?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with Wednesday the 24th.
I can do Wednesday, the 24th.
Because they don't
or-
do town meetings on Wednesdays, right?
No, they don't. Mondays and Thursdays.
Okay.
22nd, 25th, 29th.
You're right, so good call, Phil. So 24th sounds like it works for everybody?
Yep.
April 24th?
Yeah, I mean, other than I would just say those of us on town meeting, I mean, that's
It's a busy week.
it's just a
Oh,
three-night.
come on.
You almost said it's
Civic
after
duty.
tax season, you don't
Civic
care.
duty,
What day is it, the 20?
Well, can we go to the following week, or is it too late?
Too late,
Is the 30th too late, the Tuesday?
too late.
We have to have it in the month, is that right?
Well, we could skip the
We don't
month
have to.
completely.
Well, I mean, put it,
Kind of there's bids and stuff.
Yeah, right, there might be
you
time-sensitive
may not
stuff.
look like a vote, but it's just,
Go with the 24th.
Just ignore Tom's concern.
Yes.
Phil's saying
Yeah,
just go with
right.
the
Just
go with
24th.
Let's do that.
The heck with you. 24th it is.
Yep.
Phil
24th.
made that decision, not me.
I'll drive you, Phil.
Okay, that's all right.
All right, we'll go with the 24th. And then we want to communicate that to the cab to see if they want to go on that, if it works for you guys.
Yeah. So we're gonna see if all the members are available. That way the liaison for both sides will be
Yeah,
there the
works
same
really
night.
easy.
It really works, and it really works for Colleen and Mead and Chuck and everybody, because they only have to do this one night. We're trying to make it easy for you guys. So you have so much going on here, we want to lower the burden for leadership of RMLD. So, all right.
Okay,
And then May 16th, does that look good for everybody too?
that's fine.
And then we have, Tom, you'll be at the cab for April, and Phil, you got May.
I got May.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, want to go to executive session?
All right.
Yes.
Move
Motion.
that the Board of Commissioners go into executive session to consider purchase of real property, to discuss confidential, competitively sensitive, and proprietary information in relation to making, selling, or distributing electric power and energy, and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, and to return to regular session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Mr. Pacino, aye?
Mr. Hennessy, aye?
Stempak, aye.
We are adjourned. And Karen, thank you for coming.